You're listening to Big Blend Radio's Lost Angel Travel Adventures show with Linda Ballou, travel writer and author, and your host, Lisa Smith. Hey everybody, today we are doing part 2 of Linda's adventures in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and she's stepping out from Santa Fe and going to places like Bandelier National Monument. We're going to talk about Abiquiú. If you love Georgia O'Keeffe, you're going to love this. And we're going to talk about places that, you may have seen the movie Oppenheimer. She went over to Manhattan Project National Historical Park, is out there in an area called Los Alamos. And so many movies were even filmed in this area, like Indiana Jones. So excited about today's podcast because I think, Linda, I know you love art, and I know you love history and nature, but you got to go out and explore. So I think you may have like really enjoyed this part of it, right?
Right. Well, the reason that I was drawn to Santa Fe was because I so admired Georgia O'Keeffe's work, her, particularly her flowers, the very rich, lush, vibrant, intense colors of her flowers and her impressionistic paintings of the Southwest. And just basically the woman, she was a very strong woman. When I was in Santa Fe, as I mentioned in the previous episode, I started out at her gallery, at a museum. So you get an overview of who she was. And then I headed out to Abiquiú, which is 60 miles north of Santa Fe. And it's a really easy drive, good highway. You go through Espanola and then you get to Abiquiú. And really the only thing in Abiquiú is pretty much the visitor center where you meet up with the tour guide to take you to her home. So there's the home tour, and you have to make arrangements. You make arrangements online, and they have tours going several times a day. So her home was a rundown hacienda, a very, very, very dilapidated hacienda with a adobe wall around it and large grounds and a 7,000 square foot house. And she redid this. It took 3 years with the help of a good friend of hers who was really a genius at this sort of thing, and created a mid-century modern feel. I mean, very, very hip, very ahead of her time. Because 1949 was when she started living there at the age of 61. And it's very cool. She had Eames chairs and very modern furniture. And she traveled in her later life. She traveled all around the world. And one of the places she went was Japan. And she loved Japan, and the Zen feel is in her house. Very clean lines, very modern, very almost Spartan, but totally organized to the point of, I can't imagine how living in such an organized condition. But yeah, but she was also a gardener. So she was farm to table, way ahead of her time on that front, wanting to grow all her own vegetables and very specific about her food. And as a result, she lived to be 98, which is pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I was going to ask you about the garden because I think this is the house that she went to in the summer, right? That was
No,
mostly
this
her
is
summer.
the one she went to this summer was in Ghost Ranch, is where we're going to go to next. But geographically, as you are following in her footsteps, Abiquiú is where her home was. Where she. And the Abiquiú Inn is just across the way from the visitor center. So if it's possible and you can spend a night at the Abiquiú Inn, I would really recommend it, because after you do the home tour, then you can drive about 14 miles up the incredibly scenic highway through the Abiquiú Lake recreation area. So you see the lake in the distance. You have these pumpkin colored crags that look like they have meringue toppings, white whipped
Mm,
cream toppings, and it's staggeringly beautiful. And the highway is a sweeping, curving, and it's
mm.
climbing, and it's very dramatic drive. But there's no food opportunities on this highway. So once you get out there, you are like in this very, very vast open expanse. So either have
Mm.
lunch at the Abiquiú Inn or do like I did. And when you get to the Ghost Ranch, there's a visitor center, and you can buy a box lunch for $10 and have a picnic there on the grounds, which was
Awesome.
really, really a nice thing to do. So they also have a. It's only $10 to get into the Ghost Ranch, and it's acres and acres and acres, and it's where she first lived when she came to New Mexico in
Okay.
a very rough condition. She didn't have, she had to drive 60 miles to Santa Fe to get supplies every week. She couldn't grow her vegetables. She didn't have, a lot of amenities. And so that became her summer place once she got her home in Abiquiú. Then she would still go to the Ghost Ranch in the summer, and the mountain behind me, for those of you who are having the visual,
Mm,
is the view from Ghost Ranch of one of the mountains that she painted.
mm.
And so you can sit, you don't have to, you just go to the center and you can have a picnic and view things, or you can take a shuttle bus that will take you to three of the places where she painted
Oh,
and,
cool.
let you see it that way. Or if you spend the night at the Abiquiú Inn, you can get up early and hike the trails while it's still cool. There's beautiful
Hmm.
trails there along a creek with cottonwood trees, and uh,
Oh, nice.
there's stunning, stunning vistas, and lots of well-groomed trails. But if even better is the horseback ride at sunset, because
Mm.
she used to ride through the hills and stuff. She was from New
Oh,
York, and she was an urban person, but when she got to New Mexico, she just became this very strong, powerful outdoor woman, who took care of herself really well.
oh,
She learned how to drive in 2 weeks because she had to drive back to Santa Fe to get supplies. So
wow.
she lived rough there in Ghost Ranch for a while, and then finally, it took her 10 years to get the Catholic Church to sell her the hacienda. So then she
Oh,
was able to make it her home.
mm,
So I so admired this woman, but I was surprised to learn that she was not a feminist.
mm.
Uh, Gloria Steinem came to her door, knocked on her door, and wanted to interview her, and she would not receive her. She did not
Wow.
want to be a role model for other women. She was a very, very private person. She got people would come to her hacienda and knock on the door uninvited or try to jump the walls, and so she got dogs to keep people out. But she wasn't antisocial. In fact, she had many, she was very well connected in the art world. And Ansel Adams used to be a regular guest there, and a
Mm,
lot of other luminaries in the art world. So one of the reasons that I felt connected or wanted to know more about Georgia was that at the age of 84, she went blind,
mm.
macular degeneration,
Wow. Didn't know
which
that.
is very common. 50 million people, I think, in the US have that, and I have that.
Mm,
So I kind of was curious about how did she handle that, because she did live to
mhm.
be 98, so she was blind
Especially as
for
an artist, when
right,
you're
and
a
then for
writer,
her to
and
lose
yeah,
her vision, my God,
yeah,
so what she did was, instead of getting depressed, which I might do, I might get
yeah.
depressed if I go blind, but she took up ceramics and pottery, and continued her self-expression that way.
Mm,
So it was all very delightful for me, and I love the vast open spaces and the beauty of the place. And I think that is a really wonderful day trip out of Santa
mm,
Fe. And as I say, if you can spend the night in Abiquiú Inn, that would be
mm,
twice as nice. And then
mm,
also in Espanol, I would mention that in the last episode I talked about Olo Santa Fe. Olo Caliente is in Espanol, which is pretty close to Abiquiú. So there's
Okay.
the spa, the hot springs there. I didn't go there, but I was told by a friend that it's the rustic version. It's the older version. It's not as modern as the one that's just outside of Santa Fe. But if you were spending the night in that area,
You
you know,
might want to do it.
might want
I
to go
want
to
to, I
the
want
hot springs.
I want to go back to Georgia O'Keeffe and see what you think about this because what I found interesting, like everyone kind of pinned her onto being the artist of flowers, right?
Right.
And everybody also tried to say, oh, well, it's all women's stuff, you know what I mean? And I
No.
think that's probably, and so
Okay.
yeah, I was gonna
I
say
want to
when
straighten that out because
I do too. I want to
there
do
was a
that too, but
misunderstanding about her flowers. They were strictly
that's they're
flowers. It was,
flowers, exactly.
flowers are
Or
sexy.
flower.
Flowers are
I,
to attract, to bring,
yes,
pollinators to them. But why people felt that way
they
was because Stieglitz, her husband, who was a very famous photographer,
hmm
did a spread on her nude
mm.
just prior to the flowers.
Oh, see, that's
So
what it is.
people associated her with eroticism, but wasn't
That's not because
that's
when you
not
go
what
in
she
there,
that's not what
when
she was up to. She was not trying to make flowers sexy.
no,
Flowers
no,
are
but what
sexy.
they're supposed to. They're the temptress for the pollinators. But
Right, right.
the thing I was going to go to was that, and then also the fact that she did do cityscapes. She did all kinds of
Oh
different
yeah,
landscapes. She
right.
wasn't limiting of herself, at all. Like you said that she went to pottery, but the one thing that I really was fascinated about her and her collection of bones and
Right.
skulls, and she was really into that. So I felt like as an artist, going through her museum and just reading more and more about her, that with flowers, because flowers come and go real quick, right? The plant stays, the flowers come and go. The bones, I feel like she was a representation in her
She
art of rebirth
right.
and renewal.
She went for long, long walks, and she would gather bones in her walks. And there was a terrible drought in the Southwest. And that's when she started collecting the skulls that she's so famous for painting. And the
Mm.
bones, the hip bones, the thigh bones, the bones, yeah. And of course, the mountains. And her impressionistic paintings of the mountains are so striking. So yeah, she would, like every most artists, had different periods in her life where she did different had different moods and different subjects, and
I
so
just had to touch on this because she just got this label stamp on her. It's like,
mhm.
they do it to movie stars. It's like, oh, well, talk about Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford did Star Wars too, so let's
Right.
so he
Oh,
didn't just do
this is
Indiana
where
Jones.
this Lake Abiquiú recreation area is where Indiana Jones and City Slickers and several other
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood films were made right here in this region, and
Mm-hmm.
by the Ghost Ranch.
Mm.
So instead,
Yeah.
I think there's like several places I'd like to talk about
Yeah.
today. So maybe we should move on to Los Alamos.
Yes. Oppenheimer land.
Yeah, because it was declared a national park long before Oppenheimer movie won the
Mm-hmm.
Academy Award. And prior to that, I had seen a documentary on that. It was really excellent. But I learned quite a bit about the Manhattan Project when I was on the historical tour in Santa Fe.
Mm.
And I didn't physically get to Los Alamos. I don't know. Have you been to Los Alamos
No,
physically?
but the Manhattan Project, in National Historical Park is actually made up of different places. So they were
Right,
doing the atomic bomb in New
right.
Mexico, Tennessee, and I want to say Alaska, but I don't think I'm right. But there's three places. I know,
Well,
Oak Ridge area, Tennessee, definitely Los Alamos, and there's another one.
well, Los Alamos was where they did develop the atomic bomb, and it was called the Secret City. And it was a boarding school. The reason it was selected, this spot was selected, it was a boarding school and it had all the facilities, it had the infrastructure for a town. And it is a whole town.
Mm.
And there is the Bradbury Museum there, which is got a lot of scientific exhibits. There's a Fullerton Lodge there, which is one of a beautiful historic building, a log, very where they hold lots of events and so on. It is a city. It's a walking town, and there's a lake, and it has incredible vistas. It's set up high on a plateau. Oppenheimer chose this spot because it was isolated, but he also loved New Mexico geography and the vistas and the plateaus and mesas and so on. And so he picked a really beautiful spot. And one of the things that I, thought was interesting about it is that there were 223 children born in the 2 years that the secret city was
Oh
alive,
my
alive
gosh.
with scientists. They were doing more than the atomic bomb there.
It was a
Oppenheimer
closed
liked to
caption.
party. He liked to party. So I mean, I think they were having a little maybe too much fun there while they were having doing all these brainiacs research.
Who
You
knew?
know,
Well, they had martinis and Manhattans at night, and there it went.
yeah. But it's not far. Instead of making a left, you make a right, or something. On the freeway, you'll see the Los Alamos sign on the way
Mhm,
to Abiquiú. So
mhm.
it's in very close proximity. And it's also in close proximity to Bandelier.
Oh, I love
And
Bandelier.
we're going to go there, but I want to just
Oh,
say one of the things about it was that for the 2 years that the Secret City was happening, the Bandelier Park was closed
mm,
because they gave the lodge housing over to the scientists. So that was
wow,
kind of neat. So it was really the government, the whole United States government working, to make this happen, to get the
wow. It's
atomic bomb,
amazing, isn't it?
yeah, before Hitler. So
Yeah,
now we can go to Bandelier, and you've been there, so
yay.
I want you to tell me about that. I've read
Oh
about
my
it.
gosh. Oh my gosh. It is so deep. It's a wonderful visitor center. Now, when we were there, um, it depended on what time you went, that you may have to take a shuttle in. So please look at the park website,
Mhm.
Bandelier. If you go to and that's the thing for any National Park Service site, even state parks, everything. It's always good to check the website before you go because roads may be closed and maybe they have a weather condition or an emergency or, all that kind of stuff. But we are early risers, so we're there because we want to hike early. And so we got there, but this view, the canyon is just, I mean, it's New Mexico at its finest. And we were in Santa Fe June, July. So it was the, most pristine weather, but it could still get chilly, because you're in northern New Mexico. This canyon is rugged, rugged, rugged. I'm like taking gazillion pictures on my way in. And then we get down. So you drive down, or you take the shuttle. I think it was if you're arriving after 9, you take the shuttle because it's got limited parking too. So it's a really nice system. But you go up through these cave dwellings and, you think about living in them and you can actually climb some of the ladders and like peek in and see what it was like, these kind of grottos.
Well, I think we should tell people that it is the largest pueblo. There's like 9
Yes.
pueblos in the region around Santa Fe, and the
Mm-hmm.
Bandelier is the largest. And it's that there, I think there's thousands of acres of park there, but
Mm-hmm.
the walk that most people take is a 1.25 mile loop through the area there, that it's like a mountain, and there's caves and there's ladders
Yeah, and there's another
up,
extended one that you can do
and
too.
there's extended walks you can take that are
Mm-hmm.
more physical, but the
Mm-hmm.
main loop looked pretty
Yeah.
easy and well maintained.
We
And
did a couple, we did the loop and a few other parts of it. And what's great is you go through the visitor center first, which I recommend doing, because then you're going to understand more about the people that lived in the Pueblo. And talking about the other Pueblos surrounding the areas, they have special events and tours, and we've done shows on it and had the tour leaders on the show and who live there, and they'll show you how they make their food. There's different festivals throughout the year that people can do. So if you go to santafe.org, watch for those special events. I mean, it's
wow,
really
yeah,
amazing to really tap into the indigenous, culture that we have in our country and bridge some gaps and have some communication. Because if you're making food with them and then eating it together, you're going to have a conversation that you're not going to have every day, you know. And so Del Alfonso was on our show about maybe 5 years ago talking about this. And so there's different events, but then there's guided tours. You have to be guided. So Bandelier is, open to people, but you go through do the visitor center first, and then there's this garden, so you can see how they were cultivating crops. And one thing I learned in Santa Fe at the rail yard complex, which is a rehabilitated brown space with art studios, public art, orchards, gardens, and native gardens. What they did with that is amazing. They have waffle gardens. And it's the same thing you'll find at Bandelier. And it shows you how the Native Americans and the indigenous people grew plants in this waffle kind of circular way of growing plants and rotating. So it was soil health. It was about irrigation, and they do natural irrigation. If you've seen how really they know how to stagger water to make it run so it would aerate and be clean. So there's that. So to me, and then they had kivas, and it's like, we did Chaco at the same time. It was the same kind of trip.
Mm.
We did Chaco and Gallup and all of that connected, and Aztec ruins. So to kind of connect these cultures together, also ancient, Chaco's more ceremonial. Aztec is where they were living, not too far away. Santa Fe is again now a little bit different with the Pueblos, but they still had these ceremonial kivas and circular
Right.
how they grew. And then the wildlife, the flowers, the plants. There's a creek running through. We had a nice picnic, shaded picnic, because the sun does come out. Um, the plant life, the birds that live in the pueblos. That's what we did. We sat at this bench just watching all these swallows. If you go to any cliff dwelling, you'll see swallows go in and out. So anyway, I could talk all day. I have to tell you, it is a deeply spiritual, like Mesa Verde for you too.
Right.
It's
I've
a
been to Mesa
spiritual
Verde. Well,
connection.
I
Yeah.
I read that people have been there for 10,000 years. That they're,
Hmm.
that that
It's so
that place, that
exactly.
Bandelier Park, that
And we got to give a
human
shout out
beings
to
have been. But now, when I was there, I was told, if you can't, I wanted to get to Bandelier, but once again, how much can you do in 4 days, right?
right.
So I was told you could go to San Kawi, I believe I'm
Hmm.
pronouncing it right, and it is only 31 miles from Santa Fe, whereas Bandelier is more like 50. So she said, well, you can go there and you can do this 1.5 mile hike that's really looked fantastic, because the trail is grooved down like 4, 5, 6 feet from people walking on it over the thousands of years. And they have the dwellings on the top at the mesa, but they would take these trails down to the valleys where they had their
Hmm.
crops. And also there were many other villages in the area, so there was trading, between the different tribes.
Hmm.
And so there, it's a whole center of life there. But that particular trail, if you go there, and it looked fantastic, is pretty isolated. La Bandelier, you're going to have plenty of other tourists there. But on this trail, you're going to have it just about all to yourself. So I wouldn't recommend going there alone, because it's isolated, and I'm sure the cell service is not so great there. So
No,
so
no.
maybe
Northern New Mexico, not too much.
so it was a really nifty, cool spot, closer to Santa Fe, easier for you to do a day trip. So maybe you can put a link to that in the show
Mm,
notes, because it
yeah.
really looked like a very special opportunity.
That the tent, there's these tented peaks or something out in that way too that we didn't get to go to, and I want to go to. And that to me is amazing. Just these geological formations out there that look like little tented, hoodoos.
Right.
And I want to do that too, because I mean, there's just this area, like you say, people keep coming back to it on, for a reason,
Right. I
so
mean, and all of these places are pretty close to Santa Fe. Like I said, they're day
mhm,
trips. So the other one that really caught my attention was Nimba
mhm.
Falls. I'm not sure I'm saying it right, but Nemba, Nemba, and falls, water, you know,
I think it's
Water
Nambi Falls.
in
I think
the
it's Nambi
Nambi.
Falls.
Okay,
Nambi Falls.
okay, in this region is very arid. So the thought of a double waterfall really appealed to me. And it is only like 21 miles from Santa Fe. And
Mm,
it's a whole recreation area. But the trail is like maybe a half a mile to three quarters of a mile into the waterfalls, and it goes along the creek. It's you walk beside the creek, and at some points though you're going to be crossing the creek, so
mm,
you know you need to be wearing some water shoes, and maybe a hiking pole would be a good idea so you don't slip on the
mm,
rocks. But it's not hard, and it's
mm.
it's very beautiful, very it's shady and nooky, and you've got the waterfalls and the sound, and you can picnic there. And some people climb up to the second layer of the falls, not advised, slippery rocks, but the trail does go there for more adventurous people. But that looked like a really sweet way to spend the day.
Well, they do have water. I mean, you're in the desert, so water is always like a problem. But I know you went up to Taos area. There's that whole loop that you can do. There's Angel Fire and all of that. We went all over. We were in Taos. We like that whole area. And Nancy and I were just like kids in a candy store because one area went to, I think it was on our way to Red River. It had like this just turquoise water. I mean,
Uh,
turquoise water. And there was a sign, and I have all this footage of a watch out for the bighorn sheep. And lo and behold, I have photos and videos of the bighorn sheep at the bighorn sheep sign.
Well, I ran into the turquoise water when I rafted the Grand Canyon, and
Yeah.
the confluence of the Little Colorado into the main Colorado was shocking because it was turquoise. And
It blows your mind.
it had to do with the calcium in the
Mm.
water and the minerals in the water. And we hiked up the Little Colorado, and we did like a water slide thing that was there. And when we came out, I was like all cut. I had white chalk because
Oh,
of
that's it.
the calcium, but that's why it's turquoise. And
Oh, I didn't know that.
then it was warm. It was much.
Ah.
The Grand Canyon, Colorado is coming from the dam and doesn't have an opportunity to warm.
Mm.
So the Little Colorado was wonderful little treat. We could swim and play, and it was great. So the other recommendation was the loop to
Mm,
Taos. And there's a pueblo on the way you can explore, and of course there's
mm.
Taos, and it loops back, and you go through the mountains, and you have lovely vistas. And so I mean, I think you could get a lot of good fun out of a week or two in that
I
region.
think you keep going because for 4 seasons, I think their seasons are gentle. So like summer is not too hot. It can get hot on the trail though, right? As we all know in the Southwest, it's just you're in a high desert thing. But winter, you can go skiing up the top, like we were talking about Santa Fe Forest
Right.
National Forest last episode. And everyone, I'm linking that in the episode notes so you can check out the first episode. Um, the national forest, that's a ski thing up at the top, only 10
Right.
15 minutes. And sometimes Santa Fe gets snow, which is something I want to see because of all the adobe buildings. I mean, with the snow, and they put out the luminarias. To me, that is magical. I mean, the
Yeah.
Southwest in winter is just spectacular. So
Well, I was told
yeah.
that is it Canyon Road or Country Road, where
Canyon
the
Road, the
Canyon
galleries
Road,
are.
that during
Mhm.
Christmas it's just spectacular the way they
Absolutely.
light it up. It is. And I also would always remind people that it's at higher altitude, like 7,000 feet. I could really feel it. I didn't get
Yeah.
altitude sickness. I get that at 9,000 feet.
Yeah. But
But,
it does.
be
Yeah.
aware of it, drink lots of water, electrolytes, and don't drink any alcohol for a couple of days, and
Well, but then
you'll
when you're
probably
ready,
be fine. You'll probably
wait,
be fine.
wait, they have the Margarita Trail. So
Oh, geez. Well,
we did part of it, and they have little passports so you can, you win a t-shirt or, different, swag things by going around. And we had amazing margaritas there. I mean, obviously, but you did the walking tour and things like that, and food and
right.
walking tours. You get I mean, their history is so amazing. And then when you go beyond the city and you really start to see this is how people live out in the countryside area of it, well, the desert country, the high desert country,
Mhm.
it's pretty amazing how they farmed. When you think about how Pueblo life is and the hard work to
Mhm.
raise food and then raise families out that way. I mean, my heart is just like, wow, these are some resilient people, throughout the years that make up Santa Fe and northern New Mexico. But it's spectacular. Spring is vibrant, still can get some snow, but then into summer, amazing. New Mexico is the land of enchantment.
So
And
that, yes, well, they've got me going, and
yeah,
I want to go back. I mean, I really do, because I just scratched the surface of all the, and they're not hard to get to. It's not so rugged that the average person couldn't,
mm,
really enjoy it.
I love it. Well, everyone, Linda's got two articles, one talking about all these extra places you can go, like day tripping out of Santa Fe on the National Association of Baby Boomers, Women Baby Boomers, right? This is that
Right,
association.
right.
And also, we've got one on our site for her Georgia O'Keeffe experiences. So we'll have that linked up in the episode notes for you. But man, I know, they use the hashtag, obviously, the city different for Santa Fe, but also New Mexico True. So I wanted to ask you in closing of these two conversations and your experience in New Mexico, don't you think that New Mexico, there's certain places that really do stay true to who they are as the different cultures and for the nature? Do you think New Mexico's done a good job of staying true?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. You
I do too.
feel you feel an authenticity with the people. The Mexican people are represented. The Spanish, you feel
Mm-hmm.
that everywhere. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's the base. But the
Yeah.
indigenous people, I remember when we were up at the museum, they have all the sculptures and all of the artwork of the indigenous people, and the indigenous people being able to sell their wares and being represented fairly. And I think, yes, I think that they
Mm.
have managed to combine a lot of different flavors and cultures together to make a really nice brew, really fun.
Yeah. Now, did you have a bizcochito when you were there, the New Mexican cookie?
No, I had Sophia's, I think they're called. It was a bread with
Oh,
you put
yes.
honey on it, and it was
Mm-hmm.
delicious. Yeah, that was good.
Oh, Sophia with a P, I think it is.
Sophia's, yeah,
Yeah,
Sophia.
yeah. And then, well, the bizcochito is like an anise cookie. It's like a shortbread cookie, but it's got anise in it. And
Ah,
that's the New Mexico State cookie. And we had it with a sherry tasting at the end of the
okay.
governors. And Nancy and
Uh-huh.
I were like, you do this every day. You could go in at 4 o'clock. I think it's 3 or 4, whatever the time was. And a monsoon rain came. So we all went in and had sherry tasting at the end. And you can have tea if you want. But of course, we went for the sherry because where else do you get sherry during the? I mean, that's representing some of the British culture too,
Ah,
sherry tasting and Spanish culture. So of course we did that. But the cookies, I've got the recipe too. And so everyone, January 6th.
all
Okay, when the
right.
holidays,
The holidays
biscochitos
are
are great.
coming. I'm going to be looking for my cookies.
Yeah, get your cookies. And then January 6th is a statehood day for New Mexico. And
Ah,
since Santa Fe is the capital, I say
right. The
everybody
oldest
must have
capital.
the oldest yeah, not just any capital, the oldest one in the country. So
Mhm.
have a biscochito. All
Okay.
right. Well,
All
thanks
right.
so much, Linda. Always fun. And we look forward to December talking about writing, being a
Oh,
travel
all
writer.
right. Okay. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Lost to Angel Travel Adventure Show with Linda Ballou, travel writer and author. Keep up with her at lindaballauthor.com and lostangeladventures.com. You can also keep up with Big Blend Radio at bigblendradio.com. Now, happy traveling!